Well, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the webinar this morning. This is Brian Sher speaking. It's my pleasure to be with you this morning and to welcome you all to our seminar, exciting seminar. We've got a lot of action happening over the next 45 minutes to 50 minutes for you. And the webinar this morning is on social media. We have invited one of our friends and experts in this area to talk to you about the tricks and tips of social media and to help you cut through the confusion, because it's still a relatively new medium for many of us. And what we have found with many of our clients that very few people still appreciate the power of it and understand how to use this medium properly. So this should be a really interesting next 45 minutes to an hour. So I hope you're ready for action. And our special guest this morning, as I said, is Michael Simonetti from Andmind. And Michael is the founder of Andmind, and they have obviously quite a broad reach across Australia and Asia. They have offices in Sydney, Melbourne, and through Asia. So if you happen to be in those cities and want to pop in and talk to them, I'm sure they'll welcome you. Now, we haven't just picked anybody out of the blue to do this. Michael is quite an expert on social media and all things to do with digital online marketing. So you can ask him some questions at the end. I'm sure he'll stick around to handle some of your questions. And if you are more serious and want to spend some time with him, we've also asked him if he'll allow you guys to have a quick consult with him if you're up for it. So, but it is limited, and it's he hasn't got hundreds of hours to spend with everybody. So I believe that Michael will make himself available to a few select people if you do want to speak with him afterwards one-on-one. So thank you for that. Michael appears regularly in the media. If you watched anything or you've read the Sydney Morning Herald or had a look at any of the online digital magazines, you'll see Michael appearing there. And he also writes for columns such as Think and Grow Rich, The Wealth Creator, and Grow Your Business magazine. He's written a book on how to start a business, and is quite well educated and quite distinguished. He's a lecturer on digital communications at RMIT, which is a very prestigious institution. Of course, some of his clients that he deals with, or Andmind, I should say, deals with, are companies such as Art Primus, Matchbox, Regis Hotels, Tony & Guy, just to name a few. So you're in really, really good hands, and I'm sure the next 45 minutes is going to be fascinating, and I hope you've got your mobile phones off and your pen and paper ready to take some notes. And with that, I'd like to ask Michael to turn off his mute button if it's not off, and say hello to everybody. Are you there, Michael?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Welcome, and thanks for joining us. And I know that you're ready to go with a whole lot of information, slides that you prepared. I know you don't do webinars very often. You tend to do more face-to-face stuff. So I'm sure you're going to have a great time with the people who are here today. We have a great lineup of our clients that come along to these things, and they're very willing and eager to learn. So I'm going to hand it over to you, and hopefully you can have a bit of fun today.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be a part of the process, and hopefully we're going to give you some really good, strong things. They're used to using social media, and it's not really a distraction for them. And some of you guys will be in that group, but some of you guys will be in this other group where you've had a traditional business, and you've been around for a while, and you're very good at what you do. And we look at you and say, okay, well, these guys are the digital immigrants. They're on the start of a journey, or they're part of their way down of learning about digital success and how to do it. The pros that the young guys have and the startups have, and new businesses in all forms. They're agile. They're lean. They look at things in a very destructive way. How can I do it better? How can I do it different? this is the first way that they go into business thinking, I'm going to change the world. And as a young guy myself, when I first started business, that's exactly how I thought. And then the pros, the people that have been around for a while, the traditional businesses, you guys have got experience, you've got stability, you know what success is, you know when to do the right thing, you know all the important things about business and cash flow and what makes a business tick. The thing is that the new guys, because they've got such a stranglehold over the new technology, they're slowly chipping away at the successful, stable businesses that have been around forever. And so those guys are losing relevancy. And I've put some examples there, and I'll bring some examples up during the process of how this is happening. And there's wholesale changes, things like the music industry, and the recent changes that things have gone to streaming, like Spotify, versus buying CDs and records traditionally. Like those are big examples, but it's also happening on a smaller level as well. Businesses, small businesses that are accounting firms and legal firms or restaurants, they're all facing, hair salons, all facing the same sort of challenges where they've had a traditionally strong business and all of a sudden they're losing traction and they're losing customers and clients to upcoming businesses that don't have their experience, don't have their expertise, don't even have their skills or talent, but they are very, very good at communicating how great they are or how great they're going to be. So I just want you to think about that as we go through the slides, because it sort of frames the competitive nature of what's happening in social media. So this year, social media is a lot less complicated than most people think. When we're first approached about social media, everyone seems to be putting it in the bucket. If they're not already digital natives and well into it, they're already putting it into the bucket of, this is complicated. How am I going to do this? How am I going to get involved? I want to give you two quick examples that talk to this. I was at the pool a couple of weekends ago. Being down in Melbourne, it's not sunny that often, so when it is sunny, I like to try and soak up a little bit of sun. And I'm out at the pool, and I'm not that great a swimmer, but I noticed this guy in the lane next to me, and he's not swimming up and down. He's just staying at one end, doing turns. Like, I don't know if he knows what he's doing or not, but it looked interesting to me. And I said, he popped his head up, and I was at the end at the same time, and I said, oh, what are you up to? Anyway, I find out this guy, his name's Trevor. He's a plumber. He's 55 years old. What he's doing is he's learning to do flip turns, like the professional swimmers. And I said, oh, why are you learning that? And he basically said, oh, I want to do something new, and I thought it was a good challenge. And I said, did somebody teach you, or have you got a trainer, or are you just doing it? I mean, how good are you at it? And he just said to me, look, I just looked on YouTube about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and I started researching on YouTube how to do them, like following instructions on YouTube. And I thought, that's amazing. Like, here's a 55-year-old plumber that isn't very technology savvy, because we spoke about that, but he's comfortable getting on his iPad at night and looking up something on YouTube. Now, he doesn't know it, and he probably doesn't care too much, but he's actually using social media to learn how to swim better and how to do flip turns. And I thought about that for a minute, and I thought, wow, it is that simple. You just need this simple little hook, and all of a sudden you're involved. And I think that is the speed, or that is the reason that social media is growing so fast. He said to me this statement down below: everything can be broken down into simple steps. And I thought, that's an amazing insight from somebody that isn't very technology savvy, but that's exactly how that's exactly how social media works. I had the same thing. A few years ago, I bought my first, larger house, and it needed a lot of work. Now, until that point, I'd never picked up a paintbrush. I'd never picked up a drill, or a hammer, or a rake, or a lawnmower. Any of those things I hadn't touched, because, being digitally orientated a lot of my life, I always felt my place was in front of a keyboard more than doing those type of jobs around the house. But as soon as I got my own house, you want to get into that sort of stuff, or I did. And, very quickly I had, from no drills, I had 3 drills. I had a lawnmower, I had a hammer, I've got a full tool shed now full of stuff. And I've gone to Masters so much that they've given me a trade member card because they see my face so much. And I thought that was that was the other side of how things changed so quickly. And once again, this is the challenge that everybody has to get into social media. You just need that hook and the right hooks to be able to connect you in the right way, and all of a sudden you're on the way to being an expert. Now, I'm no expert at fixing my house yet. There's a few and talk about, maybe when a lot of you started businesses, or when you were around in business. Now, in the early 80s, marketing and advertising was becoming quite mainstream, and the rules and the applications around it were also being positively influenced in business. Now, back then, you can look up research papers, and I certainly did as I progressed my business and learned more about marketing and strategy. The three client considerations back then hold very, very true today, and especially in social media. I want to quickly take you through these. First of all, your brand, your company, your products, your services, they cannot be considered. They cannot be chosen if they're not considered. Now think about that in terms of social media. If social media is going to be a huge play in a channel or a part of marketing of your business in the future, or any business, and I believe strongly that it is, then if you're not there, you won't be considered. I'm going to give you some insights today about why that's important. How much time has a customer spent considering your brand? This is frequency, and this is similar to what posting is on social media. Like, unless you're there frequently or frequently enough, then once again, your brand won't be considered as well as often as others. And finally, if you are considered, why would you be preferred? What is the reason? What is the USP? What is the uniqueness, or why is your service or product better than anybody else's? And I think these three things that were built around marketing, built around advertising for decades, now hold so true in social media. And we talk about these things with our clients all the time. We try and ensure that they're ready to answer them, or answer them with us. So back from the 1970s, when those type of consumer research papers first came out and they were being adopted in marketing and strategy, this is exactly where social word of mouth is, and exactly the processes that we'll be talking about today. So this year and next year, most businesses will evolve a social media channel. If not, my call is, and you can say this is marketing or strategy or whatever, but the speed at which it's growing and how it's being adopted and the changes in the technology, if you're not involved in this in a big way as a marketing channel, your business will struggle to survive the decade. Now, that's not everybody. There's always exceptions to every rule. However, most businesses I see gaining significant growth, have a channel, have a stake in social media, and a reasonable stake. Okay, so this is a question I get asked a lot. How do I actually benefit from social media? Who there? I just want to quickly do a quick survey, quick poll. I'd like you to type yes or hit the Y button. Just punch it straight into the box there. Who's asked this question? How do I benefit from social media? Like, who's thinking about their business and has got this question lingering in the back of their head? Okay, I see a lot of yeses. Joe, Elizabeth, Tim, Mark, Tracy. Wow, Gary, David. Yeah, we've got like nearly 30% of people saying yes straight away. Okay, so I'm feeling that you guys definitely there's a huge chunk of you that want to know the answer to this question, and I'm sure everybody else there is going, yeah, I need to know more about this as well. Very, very quickly, look back in time again, a couple of decades ago. This is the only way marketing and communications was done. All right, you've got snail mail, you've got the phone. You can pick up the phone, you can call people, and you can elicit a response from broadcast media like television, radio, and newspapers. Today, the opportunities have completely changed. So we've gone from this very, very simple system of being able to get your message and your brand out there to an incredibly complicated mix of opportunities, platforms, devices, while still having some of those traditional things around. Here's a really interesting thing that that people, not a lot of people know about, but YouTube as a channel is so big that the lead channel on YouTube at the moment is this guy called PewDiePie. Now, you can look him up later, but basically he gets 260 million views a month. Now CNN News gets 60 million views a month. 9 News here in Australia, 30 million views. So those two channels combined, he's doing 3 times as much views as those channels. Now that's incredible to me. Like that every time I see that and every time I talk about it, it still shocks me. Now this guy is just, he actually looks a little bit like this guy on the left actually, but he started when he was 22 and a few years later he had that level of viewership. Now he's making millions of dollars a month just on YouTube, just via YouTube advertising. And I'm not saying that he could have another platform and he's probably trying to develop what he can do next, but it shows the power of what social media can do and how well you can connect the undercurrent of people that are already swarming to these platforms. So I really want to make this point to everyone that's just said yes, and to everyone that's listening today. Like, you absolutely need to get involved at some level right away. And if you're at that level already, you need to keep stepping further into it. And I'm going to show you and illustrate how that works within our business and how that works for businesses we work with today. Now, you don't need to know how to build your car. Like, very few people, and I know virtually nothing about cars and engines and those sort of things. I mean, I only just started finding out about my house. You don't need to know how to build your car, but you do need to know how to drive it. And you need to know how to drive it very, very well. Some of you might still get chauffeured around, and that's lovely, and you know that's the agency model, and the more of you guys that want us to chauffeur you around, the better. But you still need to know how to drive it yourself if you do that. This next slide is what Brian talked about. Something that I've published, and something that gets a lot of traction in our business is this 4 pillars of business success. How to play and win online. So this next slide, it's quite complicated, so it's difficult to take all in at once. I'm going to give you the 2-minute snapshot on this. This is the strategy, and this is the process that we run through with all of our clients. Now, you'll see up in the top right, there's a social media circle. So obviously we work and talk about digital in a much larger context. But social media is still a key part of our entire process. It works like this. Stage 1, you need to attract people to your business, online and offline. I mean, that will never change. Unless you're consistently attracting, or you've got a pool of clients that will never leave you, you need to attract new customers. Number 2 is you need to engage them. You need to provide good quality products and services that they want to talk about, but you also need to engage them across your digital networks. So that, and there's a ton of networks, we just saw that, and you can see a whole list of them there below. Because people want to be engaged over these channels, talked to, communicated to. Social media is now about 2-way communication. It's no longer about that historical marketing communications where you just push out things, they read a beautiful ad or fluffy TV commercial, and they come and buy your product. Now it's about 2-way communication. The consumer wants actually input into what they're buying and using and selling, and what you're selling, and how they talk about that with their friends. It's all becoming transparent online, and the word of mouth has moved and shifting towards that environment. These next 2 stages are really important: conversion and amplification. Now, those first 2 stages is like you can do the greatest work in the world there, but if you use conversion and amplification, you're looking at where those people are coming from, what they're doing, how they're working, what they like, what they don't like, and putting them into buckets, right? You've actually started to create a data set for your business that is incredibly powerful, that you can reach out to mothers or families or age groups, or people that are strong advocates for your brand, or people that are just listening in or following you on Facebook or social media. What we can do with that data, and what we help companies do, is realize that potential, and we sit into this space of amplification where we're measuring, we're looking at insights, we're understanding that data. And you can do this at a glance, and I'm going to show you some screens later of how simple that sort of stuff is, and how platforms are now providing this information, which in traditional terms would have cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars to do market research in. And now it's available at your fingertips once you're using social media. Okay, the good news. I know that that slide was quite complicated, and a lot of people. I mean, normally it's like an hour presentation for new clients on its own. So I understand that it seems or will seem quite complicated, but the good news is that the things that your business does, the traditional service and the marketing that you've done and you know has been successful in the past, but really that service element. If you've got good quality products and services, and you stand behind your product and you're happy to talk, and like we all do for our businesses, we talk about the success and how great our products are, and we sell every day, because we're passionate about it. Integrating social media and the best practice and the things that I'm taking you through today, the sweet spot is right in the middle. Like if you're doing both, you're already in the right place. So your traditional strategies and your products, they don't necessarily need to evolve. What needs to evolve is how you put that word out there, the channel, what you're talking through. So this is our process. When we work with anybody, we go through these 4 stages for best practice, and we call really this is our best process. Now we've evolved this over hundreds of clients, and it's very tailored, and that's why I'm going to offer some of you guys a consult at the end, because you might take this on board and go, great, I can do it myself, or I want more information and I need to understand how this process works. I'm going to run you through it. Number 1, business strategy, content strategy. Okay, so there is this obvious statement that everybody knows about, quality over quantity. It never rings more true in social media. You want to create people in or on social media channels, varying channels, that are advocates that are not followers. Okay, followers, people that just hit like, or people that follow you for any reason, they're not really advocates of your brand. You want people that, like if you have a restaurant, you serve them a beautiful meal, you want them to talk about that meal. You want them to leave telling their friends. It's exactly the same thing on social media. Although you're not giving them the food there, you want them to talk in that way. And you don't want to just create followers for the wrong reasons. You also don't want to target the entire World Wide Web. You want to target the people relevant to your business. I'll give you an interesting insight on this, actually. There's a lot of, we look at a lot of websites and a lot of data, and we see companies when they buy, or when they ramp up their Facebook likes and Twitter likes or Instagram likes, etc. We see all their data start flooding in, like traffic flooding in from Asia or from India or from Bangladesh or from Russia, because they've gone out on a strategy that's really just bought them fluff data. And all that does is it creates a problem for you ongoing. All right, so I want to talk about the top 5 platforms. These are the top 5 platforms. These guys have now, between them, billions of people in those communities, and they're becoming tighter and tighter networks. Each of the platforms are starting to align themselves with real reasons for using individual platforms. This is where the actual game is, though, in social media. So this screen, I'm going to talk you through it, is not what's happening right now, but what the people that make those social media platforms, those big platforms, what they're trying to achieve with social media. So social media already has an incredible amount of people on them. Billions of people all using it, daily or weekly. It's a huge platform. They're huge platforms. However, this is where it's starting to get really interesting, and this is what's happening next. Contextual search is the game right now for these guys. I'll give you an example. If you Google, pizza in Sydney, or the best pizza in Sydney, what's going to happen is you're going to get like 30 results on a page, and it's up to you to figure out whether or not that those pizza places are good or not. Now, I love pizza, and there's no way I'm going to trawl through 30 or 40 places to try and figure out whether 30 or 40 websites or articles on the Age Good Food Guide, or the websites that talk about pizza restaurants, because a lot of that of what the best pizza is in Sydney or a good pizza in Sydney is. So the problem with doing all that, and when you get 30 of those pages, it's your job. You've got to go and do all the work. You've got to go through those pages and go, do I believe that or do I not believe that, or are they near me or are they not near me? So what Facebook and Google are competing on right now is contextual search, and this is the difference between having a social network around that piece of information. And this piece of information applies to any business. Okay, if you know someone, let's say you know a passionate Italian like me, right? I'm going to tell you with absolute certainty what I think is the best pizza place, and I'll qualify it and I'll put my name to it. So if people want good pizza and I've put a post on Facebook, what they're doing is they're remembering that. They're remembering that I went to that restaurant, they know my nationality, they know a lot of information about me that can provide that piece of information and sell it to somebody else in my network. So that person knows and trusts my take on pizza, especially if I eat at a lot of pizza restaurants or I eat it a lot. So that versus you doing the work. So if you go onto social media in the near future, Facebook are trying to get this right now, so are Google. This is where the competition is. If you go into Facebook and go, okay, pizza in Sydney, what it's going to do is it's going to say, if you know me, it's going to say, well, Michael ate there last week and he loved it. Maybe you should try that. And it's very subtle. I want to move on to some insights and ideas about those top social media platforms and what they do for you and why some startup ideas. Like a lot of you guys will probably know this stuff already, but you get this word of mouth, this social word of mouth online, and it's persistent. It stays around for a long time, especially if you get it on your website and you re-promote it as well. You also get direct connections with people that you can connect with, like I'm sure that many of you have email marketing, and that type of connection, that direct connection, that's becoming firmer and firmer in the social media space as well. There is also a focus on topic thought leadership. Like if you are doing that type of work online, like if you're not just making jokes and having fun all the time and trying to promote to the lowest common denominator, if you're focused on thought leadership, and this is something that my company does, then you get the right people around your network, around those connections. You still need to mix in campaigns, advertising, offers, a little bit of character, but you have to stay true to that thought leadership. You have to stay true to what you're about. Video is another huge thing. 80% of online is spent streaming video. Now that's a massive number. It's also because video takes longer to watch than scanning through a Facebook feed or looking at some Twitter posts. But it is still a huge percentage of what is happening in social media. The idea that I gave to you before about Trevor the plumber, who's on YouTube, that guy is who I'm talking about, and more people are doing this. YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world behind Google, and incidentally, Google owns it. All right, then there's two approaches that we sort of work and talk to all of our clients about as well. A macro approach, the big ideas, the campaign ideas, the advertising, the concept. We want to see them go viral. We want the most amount of people to share them as possible. Now, that's easier said than done. Things that actually go viral and get you a huge traction for a small spend is very difficult. So the other approach, and the complementary approach, is this micro approach. So many small parts, many small posts, and what you do is you want to get those posts right. Getting them right in terms of that character, getting the tone of voice correct, will get you consistent wins. People will feel like they know that character, they know that brand. And social media is like a person. So if you get that personable quality in there, that tone of voice correct, then people will start to trust your social media channel as they trust your marketing. So this goes into that second part of what we try and get right. The first part of what we're working on is the overall strategy. Like, how we get those type of ideas aligned to your strategy and build up a process for you. You know, we figure out things like, you know, your timing, when you're going to post, all those sort of things. But it needs to have a style. So what we talk to people about is their brand character. You know, are you lighthearted? Are you serious? Are you fun? Are you, you know, straight down the line? A brand character needs to be developed almost as a person that's going to talk for your brand. The reason is, if you have a confused style or a confused tone of voice, that comes through. If you had a friend and he spoke to you, you know, every hour differently, in a different style, you'd think that was odd. That's the same subconscious thing that happens in social media. So getting that brand character right is very important. And we spend a lot of time developing that tone of voice, that brand character for organizations to make sure that they've got that consistent approach. And it's typically connected with the target audience. And that's what I was saying before. Don't target the entire World Wide Web. Don't target the entire population of Australia or the world. Focus on the people that you want in your business first. And when you try and approach too many people at once again, the message is confused, your style is confused. Here's the challenge. Tone of voice also works differently on different platforms. And I apologize, this is a bit blurry, but you can look up this later as well. And if anyone wants the slides from today, I'm more than happy to provide them. This is where it gets complicated. You've got hundreds of prominent opportunities happening across social media. Like, we get our clients, you know, the white dots you can see here, we're highly active on these platforms. You know, 20 or 30 platforms we're highly active on for our clients. And we get traction and opportunities across all of them. And we're still active on others, and we're testing and trialing ideas on those platforms to see if we can get a better than average result and see some really huge viral wins on those places as well, because there are a lot of opportunities in new platforms as well. Getting the tone of voice right for each of these is a very, very specialized process. So I've got this cheat sheet for you, and once again, I'm not going to run through this because there's a lot of content here, but if you want the slides at the end, let me know, and I'll shoot this through. This will tell you the type of users on each of the platform, the pros and the cons, and it'll help you decide whether or not you should be on those platforms or not. And obviously, you know, we would also be telling clients, and I'm telling you today, find other things that other platforms, new platforms, startups like Snapchat. Like, this is a huge, huge platform, 26 million active users a month. And these are the sort of new platforms that are up and coming that have incredible opportunities, because there's not a lot of companies on them yet, and you can sort of take, especially your local or you know, national geographic area, and you can win in that space very well. You know, versus Facebook, which is very competitive already, and you really have to have everything down solidly. Okay, the next part is you've got your strategy. You know basically the timing. I mean the timing, but we try to plan out sort of a year and sort of what the posts are going to be like, the tone, the style, so we know exactly what we're going to go out there and say, and then we actually have to do the work, or you have to do the work. You know, it depends on the mix, and I'm going to talk about that in a sec. But the publishing side of things is the hardest part. It's like you need to be your own news network. It's like you have to be your own magazine, and this is something that people aren't ready for. You know, businesses have not ever thought about, I need to be my own magazine, unless you're a magazine. So that the hurdle is having engaging content consistently within your style at the right frequency, and having the resources to deliver that amount of information. That's a huge challenge. What complicates that even more, and here's some pro tips. So if you guys are already active on social media, some of these are really, really good ideas. If you're not, this will illustrate some of the complexity and the detail that you need to get into to be very competitive in social media. The first one's quite easy. It will make sense, and if you guys are already doing this, you're going to be like, yeah, understand completely. Use attention-grabbing, contrasting images in videos and in posts. In video and in posts. So that's actually written poorly. Sorry about that. For example, black backgrounds and infographics. If you don't know what an infographic is, once again, look it up later. But these are you know, things that really catch your attention, especially when there's so much noise on social media. Number 2, using a dot at the start of a tweet will send to all your followers. Like, that's a little trick, and not a lot of people know about it. We really put that in the pro tips. So if you've got a social media team, ask them if they're doing that and using it at the right time. Video SEO, number 3. Now, we were really big on YouTube, even when it was starting up. So we put together this video SEO strategy, search engine optimization strategy. And we were doing things like, you know, once again, that macro and micro approach. We were doing things like these little clips. You know, we're getting clients to shoot 30-second clips. We had a particular client, they were a white goods wholesaler, and they sell plasma TVs and those sort of things, so electronics and white goods. We got them to shoot 100 clips about products that were on the showroom floor. They received nearly 500,000 views in 4 months. Now, they were winning traffic off like Panasonic and LG on specific product terms because Google was putting their video link on the front page of Google. And that's an enormous result. So if you have, you know, if you can build a strategy up and then get the search term rights inside a video, you can make amazing wins there as well. Putting a $5 advertising ticker, you know, just with something that links back into your social media platform, will get people across your social media platform at a very reasonable rate, and you know, you might throw a free offer in here or there, and that will spike it as well. Number 5 is a really important one: influencers. You need to have influencers, people, advocates for your business on social media. Now, you can connect, you know, like on LinkedIn, you can start a business network and network with people, or start a question forum, and you'll get some traction. It takes a little while to get right, but you know, for businesses, it's a home run, because once you've connected with people that you trust in the digital landscape, they're going to be able to talk to you and refer work, etc. I do this all the time on LinkedIn, and it dominates for us. The other thing is connecting those advocates. So on, you know, Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram, those sort of places. You know, either giving them away something like a top or a free meal or a drink or whatever, and then they will post about it organically, or sharing something with them. You know, you post for them, they post for you. That sort of stuff is very, very powerful because it shows that you're active, and it shows social proof in the social environment. All right, now a lot of you are probably thinking it's either, okay, I'm already doing all of this stuff, or it's a lot, and you know, I want to direct, I want to explain how my business works and get someone to do this for me. You know, I don't necessarily want to drive. So I just want to get another show of hands, please. Like, how many of you guys, you know, feel that this statement is about right? Give me a yes once again if you feel like there's a lot going on here. I'd rather have someone help me with this versus I'm ready to do all of this stuff myself. I understand the intricate details of this. So just hit yes or hit a Y and just type it into the box there. I want to see how we're going with this. Okay, a couple of yeses. Yeah, okay, quite a few. Couple of no's, which is good. So we're sort of like it's sort of like a 50-50 mix actually. So, all right. Here's a strategy that we use for resourcing. Okay, so somebody has to do the work. It's either going to be you or your team, or it's going to be an agency that will help you with. So you break up those 4 areas. You know, I recommend no matter who you're working with social media, or if you're doing it yourself, break up those 4 areas. Make sure you've got a good content strategy. Make sure you know what your tone of voice is. Work out your content posting, your scheduling, how often, what the frequency is going to be, and make sure that you're reviewing and adjusting. So here's one example. You know, like you've got your agency helping you with the startup, you know, the content strategy and the tone of voice, but then your team's taking on the content posting, or you are, or you've hired someone, and maybe it's a contracted role, maybe it's a student. You know, the students that I teach at uni, they do a lot of this stuff for organizations. But the boss, the CEO or the CMO, like, you've got to be involved. You got to know how to drive all this. You got to understand some of the detail, so that you get you understand the results, and you can help steer it in the right direction. Software shortcuts. So there's a lot of shortcuts that can help you with this stuff. So there's some tools down there. Hootsuite is a really, really good one. It can help aggregate all of your social media posts. And then, you know, there's free tools, like we provide a free tool called and.to, which helps you post easily to most of the social networks, but it's very, very simple. There's not a lot of analytics in it. And then stepping up, you can get into very, very expensive tools, you know, thousands of dollars a month for like Radian 6 and Lithium. These are for like enterprise level, or if you're running multiple businesses, or if you're running multiple premises, you want to be using these sort of tools to really watch what's going on in social media. If social media is already making you money, definitely you want to be start thinking about these tools. Okay, so part 4 is results. So we do monthly monitoring. I mean, we monitor every day, but we're really monitoring and reporting back monthly to our clients. So the insights and the conversions that we see is really what we're talking about. Like we're looking at data and seeing patterns and adjusting those things. But what we're actually looking for is conversion goals. This is an example screenshot of what Facebook's analytics look like. You can see at the top, you know, page likes going up as we've worked with a client, and you know, we really like to work on organic growth, not so much paid growth. We keep those advertising dollars very, very low. And then a snapshot of the fans, so you can see that the breakup of men and women, etc. And this is powerful information, especially as it changes, especially as you're thinking about your tone of voice. You know, is it too female orientated, or am I talking to males, etc. The overall cost versus reward for all of this, I mean, the entry level is either a lot of your time or thousands of dollars per month. If you're thinking about social media in any other regard, like I can hire a team overseas, or I can get someone to do it for $300 for me a month, like there's just not going to be any reward in it for you. But you do need to risk for a couple of months, and then you'll see a reward. Right? How do you actually see the reward? This is the only thing that we care about with any of our clients, and the only thing that we talk about that's important. You do all that stuff for one reason, an action, and that action has to be a sale, like likes, like you know, comments, posts, reposts, people talking to you. That's all great and that's all fluffy, but unless you actually make a sale, you're not even in the game. Like, it's got to convert all the way down. You've got to know what social media channels you're on, what they're generating for you in terms of sales, and you can do that by developing conversion goals either within your website or rules within your business that measure and help know what that spend, what that time, what that effort, what that cost to your team is generating in sales. Now, it might be small when you're starting up, or you might not have seen any sort of result yet, but this is the only thing that's worth measuring. You've got to adapt quickly, right, to meet those real-world conversions. Do not worry about likes. Do not worry about followers. Do not worry about whether or not that single post did really well or not. You worry about the conversion goal. You worry about your sales. If you can connect the dots between the two, you're well on the way to dominating in social media as you move forward. I want to give you some quick examples, and I'm going to give you some top tips, and then take some questions. So there's two really types of social media concepts that are out. You know, there's brands, things that you know, like well-known brands, and there's also brands that are up and coming. I'm going to give you two examples, and there's also businesses selling directly to clients. So it's either selling to consumers and you're going out to everybody, like Coca-Cola or McDonald's does, or you're selling specific services. You know, like vendor advocacy, or we do vendor advocacy, help sell your home, one of our clients. So these are all our clients. Brand loyalty, QV Skincare, I'm sure a lot of you would have heard about the QV Skincare range. We started their social media about 18 months ago. Now, with a very, very low cost organic strategy, we developed 30,000 followers within that time. The likes say 20, but I did this slide a couple of months ago, and now it's already up to 30. Like, they're getting huge traction in the space only because they already had a loyal brand following. Now we're just turning that on social media. And if you've got a loyal brand following, that's what you want to find them, because they will help. They'll be great advocates. A lot of people will talk about your product and your pages in social media. OneShift is a jobs board, and if you haven't heard of these guys, it's not like Seek or LinkedIn where you post a job and you're going for a career job. This is like if you want a job in a cafe for an hour or two a week, or you're a student and you want to go and help and do some admin or something. Like they're single jobs for like short periods of time. Now, this was a real need in the space. Like, the concept came from overseas, and we helped build their software. Now, these guys went from 0 to almost a 200,000 following in a year, and they've recently been funded, and they're doing very, very well. But there was a real need for that service in the marketplace, and they identified that need because they could see it happening overseas, and similar to what you can see in social media for other clients, for other businesses. If you have that need and you get it out there, you're going to have really strong success as well. These guys are highly active in social media. If you look at their page, you'll see them posting every day. They've got their tone of voice right. They've got their character right. If you're a smaller business, though, like Vendor Advocacy, now these guys have only got a couple of hundred likes. But when I talk to them about their social media, they post and they've got the right people on that channel. Now, those people, they've sold a house for or they're about to. And one of the owners, Ben, said to me, oh, you know, last week someone commented on our Facebook page, and a few minutes later I had a phone call from her friend saying, oh, Jenny just posted on your page saying thanks for selling your home. Can you sell my home? Now, with a very low strategy and a low cost setup, these guys are helping sell homes, and they're getting, the reward is huge for these guys. They sell a home, they make $10,000 or $20,000 commission. It's exactly how social media should be used for that social proof to convert into leads. Finally, we play and we get, a good idea is not just to play the short game and look for immediate wins and how am I going to make money next month. It's building trust. We had, you can look at our page, and once again, this was done a few months ago. It had like 1,100 likes, and now we're at 2,000. The reason is because we put out free information and free content all the time, similar to what I'm talking to you guys about today. And it's instrumental in making sure that we have like this long game, this trust being built up. I don't want to ruin or stuff up my brand character by trying to hype up people with free offers and jokes like I see other companies do, because I want to remain serious in that tone of voice, because I want to work with serious businesses. So I'm connecting across the right number of people. I'm not just looking for likes. All right, I just want to leave you with these 3 top tips, and then we'll get into questions. So number 1, absolutely get involved. Don't let these new guys, these up-and-comers, these kids that have had social media and they love Snapchatting and they're on Facebook, and you think it's just for them. As they progress, don't let them chip away at your business. Don't let them chip away at your staff with dreams of being part of a Google-esque type company. And don't let them own media spaces like social and website content because they're publishing there and you're not. Grow conversions. This is hands down the only goal that you should really be thinking about. All of those other statistics and stuff lead you to this important piece. Real conversions, it's likes. It's not likes, it's customers. You absolutely need customers. Likes and those sort of things, they're indicators, but unless they're showing you that new customers are coming, you're playing the wrong game. Finally, be agile. Be ready to adapt any strategy that you put forward, and that's why you need to know how to drive, even if you don't want to drive your social media channel, you need to know how to unlock this owned channel. And by owned channel, what we talk about with clients is you own this channel. Like Facebook is not going to turn off your page tomorrow. All those people that like you and that follow you, and if they're authentic and they're ambassadors of your brand, they are a marketing channel for your business, and it's very powerful because of the network that they're connected to as well. All right, I'm going to take some questions in a sec, but before I do, I want to say that I've got a free consultant strategy for the first 10 people that email me at my email address on screen here. So if you want a 15-minute consult about anything that I've spoken about today, it's leaving you with a lot of questions, or you don't get them in this next section, then email me. I'm going to take 10 people only because I don't have a ton of time to give away free strategy, but everything that I will give you will be absolutely perfect for your business. And I do these meetings with clients day in, day out, so I've seen it all. You tell me what your business is, I'm going to grasp it very quickly, and I'm going to go straight into the strategy. So if you email me now, the first 10 people I'm going to give that free strategy consult to. I've got about 15-20 minutes of time, and if you guys want, shoot me some questions, and I'll answer them right here, right now. Thanks for the feedback, guys, as well. Appreciate all of that warm words. Okay, Nick's asking, hang on a second, let me just open this up a little bit. Nick's asking, where do you see the future of brands considering the ongoing significant decrease in organic reach? Nick, it's a good question. It goes back to the point that I was making about ensuring that you've got the right people involved in your social media network. So we're seeing new companies start up that are very, very strong in this idea of, I'm not going to prostitute my brand character or my offering, I'm going to find the right people to connect with. Now, if Facebook is very competitive and you're just seeing a wash of people and you can't really get through, try another platform. Because if Facebook can't answer that question for you, guarantee there's platforms out there that will. Okay. How does Instagram work as a lead source? Okay, so Mark's just asked about Instagram. Instagram is a very, very strong visual platform. So as a lead source, you can only use Instagram if you have a compelling visual story, a compelling visual narrative that you can put up. Now, Instagram and Pinterest are very similar like this. So Instagram's got a younger demographic, Pinterest has got an older female demographic. So based on those skews, like, you need to create imagery that is compelling on those platforms. Now, you can have no followers and no one on Instagram, but if you've got a compelling visual story, like you've got great looking food, or you've got great looking clothes, or you've got hot looking people working out in your gym, or and you can take shots of that stuff, and it's going to interest that audience. You're going to know very quickly. Now, to generate leads from it, you want to connect with like-minded people sharing similar stuff, and people will just start to swarm around you. If it's interesting and great and visual, you'll get massive wins in that space. And I see single people having hundreds of thousands of followers, within a year of starting up, because it's personal and it's passionate, and they're shooting like themselves or their friends doing something, or their food, and it just generates traction because it's very, very organic. Tim's asked if the session's being recorded and we'll be able to get a copy. I'll definitely make all the slides available on our site, and I'm sure the Fortune Institute guys, Brian, and the team will make it available for you as well, Tim. Okay, a couple more questions. What is the connection? Greg's asking, what is the connection or key between personal brand and corporate brand for SMEs? That's a really good question. So if you go to my, if you look me up in social media, and I'm a corporate business, I typically run our corporate business as our social media channel. I don't run my personal brand as a social media channel. Now, you need to figure out that mix for yourself. So every time I think, okay, should I start developing my own personal brand further on social media, I don't have a compelling reason beyond doing that for my business. So my online character is my business character. So even if I moved it from Anne Mine to Michael Simonetti, it would still be my business character. Now, I have a personal character on social media, and that's for my friends and my family. And if you want to look at my Facebook profile and you see my smiling kids there, that's just saying contact with other groups of people. So you've got to have that clear distinction between personal brand and online brand. However, if you feel you've got a larger personal profile and you want to use that as leverage, then by all means, we get celebrities and we get digital advocates all the time that have built up a personal brand on social media, like their own blog or their own channel, because they've used their own name. Then of course, use that, leverage that as much as you can. But if it's for your business, you may not be the only person posting all the time, or you may have other people involved in that, and you don't want to come off like it's only your channel. I hope that answered your question, Greg. Okay, let's look at Jessica. How do you get people to engage with you on Facebook? We're a startup travel company, and actually, and anytime I actually do a post to a trip we're advertising, it doesn't get attention. Jessica, the thing about any of these channels is you need to have an audience. And you need to have an audience that you've built up with the right strategy. So if you're not getting a lot of interest from Facebook, or you feel that it's difficult, and travel's a difficult offer, but it's actually a very, very aspirational business, because you can post pictures of where your clients are traveling or communicate with them. That's what I would be doing in the Facebook setting. I would be talking to people that have been on trips and just communicating them about how their trip went, you know, what they liked, show us your best photo, comment on that, did you see this place? You know, why not provide personal, and I know, once again, these things take time, but they'll get traction. Here's an idea: provide personal travel advice while people are traveling on social media. You know, communicate with them. Hey, did you see that place yet? You know, did you see you went to Rome? Did you see the Colosseum? You know, what's your best photo? Post it here for us. Like that level of interaction, that's going to win waves of organic traffic for you. And doing that, you can use that same strategy on other platforms as well. Okay, I'm going to take 2 more questions, and then we're going to wrap it up for today. So Mark asks, where does a blog sit in the social media mix? That's a good question, Mark. So a blog, obviously you can write more information on a blog than a social post. And how functionally it should sit is you want to have your social media linked to your key blog posts. So when you're writing blog posts and hopefully you're generating interest in your blog, and you know, if you go back to our 4 pillars model, you can generate organic traffic through Google, etc., just by getting the keywords right and your SEO right on your blog, especially if you're writing about things that few people are writing about, specific topics. Now, if you post that on social media and you've already got a following there, they're going to be interested in that. Otherwise, what you want to do is you want to try and reach out to people and maybe have a communication on social media, maybe Twitter, maybe LinkedIn, about the article. Try and get some feedback about that article on those platforms and generate a conversation, because that's really what social media is about. It's a 2-way conversation. A blog, sure, they can post comments at the end, but it's not as fluid as social media, not as fast as social media. David's asked, what is a reasonable monthly budget to allocate to social media? With anything to do with marketing and advertising, we recommend that an entry level for any business, small or large, is $1,000. The reason is you've got a clear number that you want to generate back from that. You know, if a single sale for you is worth $1,000, then your whole plan is to get that $1,000 back. If your products are worth $10, well, then that $1,000 has to generate 100 sales. But if you generate 30 in the first month and 40 in the next month, and you know you're progressing, you're seeing what your investment is over time and what it's going to take to break even in that space. Now, once we start profiting in that space, then we start ramping it up for clients. And typically, clients that have more to spend at the start will get traction faster because they'll be able to do more things at once. I'll take last question from Mark, and I'm seeing a lot of thank yous, etc. Thank you so much, Tim, Jessica, etc. I appreciate that. Mark's asked, what can we do to attract an audience? Do we need to advertise on the platform? I would recommend that small, in our pro tips, I had this $5 advertising ticker. And when we came up with that a couple of years ago, it was working beautifully straight away. It's not a lot of money to spend, right? But what you do is you can show 3 or 4 or 5 people your page or more every day. So if you're posting interesting content and you're targeting the right audience, you're going to nail new people coming in to your platform. And I've used this for my company as well. And I have got marketing managers and CEOs, the people specifically that I've targeted, people that I know that are in groups like BNI, etc. I've targeted them on social media, and you can do that very, very well, very, very accurately. And then they've come to the page and they've read something and they've liked it, or they've absorbed it, or they've liked the page because they want to follow that information. That's a hands down easy way to advertise into a social media page or platform. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I'll look out for those first 10 emails for the social media consult and come back to you today or tomorrow. We will also publish under the Fortune Institute social media on our website, and probably their website as well, the slides for today and the recording. So I thank you very much for your time, and I hope you've got some tips and advice. And yeah, thanks again. Enjoy your day.
Welcome to TechSoup Talks. My name is Cami Griffiths, and today's webinar is 10 Social Media Tips and Secrets. Our presenter is Heather Mansfield. And Heather, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your webinar program?
Sure. My name is Heather Mansfield. I have a small company called Diotha Communications, and I blog at Nonprofit Tech 2.0 and run various nonprofit org communities that total about 500,000 fans, followers, and friends. And today I'm going to be talking about the 10 most important tips I've learned from using these sites 40 to 50 hours a week for the last 4.5 years.
Fantastic. Well, we're certainly happy to have you here and appreciate all the time that you've put into this presentation. I'd also like to thank Chris Peters and Stephanie Parker for helping out on the chat. We have a full house today, so we want to move through the webinar so we've got time at the end for Q&A. So why don't we just get started, Heather?
All right, great. Thank you so much. So in today's webinar, before I get into the 10 social media tips and secrets, and those are kind of more like best practices, I really want to lay a context for all the nonprofit communications folks out there of understanding social media and its role and the social web in general, and kind of 3 evolutions of the web today, Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and Web 3.0. So I'm going to start with brief explanations of those and then move into really the 10 most important things I have learned over the last 4.5 years of running social networking communities, promoting nonprofits and promoting my webinars and helping nonprofits use social media. And you might be a little bit surprised by what they are. So we'll try to move through those pretty quickly and then leave about 15 minutes in the end for questions. Let's just go ahead and get started. Now this is the first time I've ever done a webinar where it's just slides, so you might have to have a little patience with me while I figure out the markup tools. And so let's see. I'm showing here, Cami, I'm on slide 7, but I don't see it in the presentation. So is there we go. All right. So first of all, Web 1.0, the static web. I like to define these as your website, your email newsletter, and your e-advocacy tools and Donate Now buttons. Let me experiment a little bit here with these markup tools. So you'll notice Donate Now button right there, email newsletter, the website, and then the Take Action tool. I am very honest with nonprofits about social media and all these fancy new bells and whistles and tools that are out there. Make sure you have your website, your email newsletter, and your Donate Now button in place, working well before you even think about branching out into Web 2.0, which is also known as the dynamic web, or AKA the social web, which I'm not really sure if there's a slide delay, but I'm seeing that. So
just double click on the slide and you'll move forward.
Okay, there we go. All right, so then getting into Web 2.0. Now this all started pretty much with the launch of Blogger in 2004. This is when things started getting really interesting. You didn't have control any longer. Like on your website, your email newsletter, you have complete control over that content. People aren't going to your website and posting comments and giving thumbs up and having all these discussions. So this era really changed everything. And believe it or not, it's been around since 2004. YouTube came out in 2005. MySpace and Facebook came out in 2005. So we're still fairly new, but well 5 or 6 years into this new era of the web. And for nonprofits, what this will be are your social networking tools. Right? And over here they got to follow us on Facebook, connect with us, and then they have a blog. I almost like to call blogging Web 1.5. Now, what's really important to understand is that all of these new fancy new tools, they're not meant to replace Web 1.0. Your website, your email newsletter, your email advocacy tools if you're doing any, your Donate Now button, those are still the most important tools in your online communications arsenal today. You actually use Facebook, hopefully, to drive traffic to your website, Twitter to build your email newsletter list, blogging to increase online donations through your Donate Now button, and send out your e-advocacy tools through these various social networking sites, have online conversations, but then empower your friends, your followers, and fans to share them throughout the web for you. Now, we're already into Web 3.0, and this actually isn't the correct technical term of Web 3.0. If you would talk to a tech person, they would say it's the semantic web. I'll tell you right now, I have no idea what that means. I cannot wrap my head around it, but it's the next big thing. But for the sake of simplicity, I like to define Web 3.0, kind of this next level of web communications, as the mobile web. And this captures everything from Web 1.0, your website, except putting it in a mobile format, your email newsletter, except maybe it'll be read on a mobile device or an iPad, text campaigns, smartphone apps, and Facebook, Twitter, all of these tools, accessing these tools on mobile devices. Now, if you look at this slide, this is actually my mobile website. It looks like it was designed in 1995. But if you go to the next slide and you shrink it, you actually see what that site would look like on a mobile device, in a mobile browser. When you click on any of those icons at the top, they don't go to the desktop version of my Twitter account. They go to the mobile version, m.twitter.com/nonprofit.org. So what's important to understand about this is that as you're building your communities on social networking sites, use them to build also your Web 1.0 campaigns, but understand that you're laying a foundation that's very important for the long-term sustainability of your organization, which is embracing and becoming an early adopter of the mobile web. With that context down, let's go ahead and jump into some of my secrets. And really, secrets is kind of an elaborate term for them. They really are the things that I can sum up after 4.5 years of doing this, where we're at today and what's most important. And I think a lot of nonprofits still tend to view kind of social media as this free tool set, right? We can have our intern do it, or maybe we'll hire somebody, but it'll be unpaid, this sort of thing. And we are kind of entering an era now where it's been around 5 or 6 years where we need to move it up a few notches to make it stand out for the rest. And one of the most important things that you can do right now is invest in a good avatar. And what I mean by that is your profile picture that you use on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, MySpace, YouTube, Foursquare. And they should all be consistent, meaning they should all look the same for every profile. Because what you'll start to notice as you've been on these sites for a while, that you might not see the name and recognize an organization or a brand or a resource. You'll see their logo, AKA what I like to call their avatar. So it's really important at this point that you do some of the basics, like have a square avatar. A lot of logos are rectangular, and they don't look good on Facebook. The only place where you need a rectangular avatar these days is on LinkedIn. But if you use it on Twitter, if you use it on YouTube, MySpace, Facebook, it ends up getting cropped. So something like this, the World Society for the Protection of Animals, they literally opened their horizontal logo in Photoshop, expanded the canvas size to make it square, took about 30 seconds. Now why this is important is because anytime you see the World Society for the Protection of Animals in the news feed on Facebook, you don't see a logo that's cropped and messed up. You see a perfectly square logo. Now when you go out on Twitter, you'll recognize that before you even think of the name of the organization. It becomes consistent and visually appealing through all social networking sites. Another option is to take your logo and superimpose it with an image. Now this is a small nonprofit called Echo Viva. They're actually based in Oakland. They change out those photos every 3 to 4 months. So they consistently use their avatar, but they make sure that they've got a photo at the top of it so it shows up perfectly square. Now here's an example of what happens if you don't do that. I love Greenpeace. I'm a donor of Greenpeace. I've been a longtime fan. This avatar looks absolutely fabulous on the front of a Facebook page, but when you go and you see it in the news feed, which is where 90% of the power is on Facebook. Most people don't go to your page and hang out on your page, right? They're seeing your status updates in the news feed. Well, what happens is any kind of horizontal or vertical avatar gets cut off. So we're at this point now, if you've gone through any kind of logo design process, that can drag out for months. You've got to have meetings about it. You go back, redesign this and redesign that. It's really time to make sure that you have an avatar that has your logo in it, that's square, and that's visually appealing across all social networking sites. Number 2 is finding your Facebook voice. 90% of the power of a Facebook page really is in the status update because they do get newsfeed exposure. I cannot, I cannot emphasize this enough. I monitor the stats on my Facebook page, which has about 10,300 likes or fans, and the vast majority of the traffic from Facebook to either my blog or my website or to a New York Times article or something that I'm posting is coming from the status updates. Not a lot of people click on tabs. They're not clicking on links over on the left side of your page. Most of that action is happening through the status update and news feeds on Facebook. A really important thing that you need to understand about Web 2.0 is that it's not really about marketing. It's not old school like, well, yeah, we're going to go into Facebook and just post links to our blog and links to our donate page and links to our new press release. It really is inciting and leading conversations online. And one of the best indicators that you're doing a good job of that on Facebook is if you're getting thumbs up and comments on your status updates. I can tell you this, if you're not consistently getting at least, and it depends on your Facebook community size, right? Maybe you have 500 fans, maybe you have 100,000 fans. It'll vary based on fan size. But you should hopefully be getting at least a couple of comments a week and some thumbs up. If you're never getting any comments or thumbs up, then you still need to find your Facebook voice. The good news about Web 2.0 is it's a little bit more laid back, right? If you send out a misspelling or you do an email newsletter that's boring or if there's something wrong on your website, that's really bad in Web 1.0. But in Web 2.0, the online audience is a little bit more forgiving. So you can post things and maybe they don't get any comments or thumbs up. Well, okay, that's not going to work. Let me try something different. So this is the National Peace Corps Association, and they have a really good Facebook voice. Now, on my end, it's a little small. I can't actually read what I've hyperlinked there or what I've bolded there in that status update. But notice in every status update, they put some kind of statement. They just don't post a link, like here's the photos, and have a look at the photos. But they always preface it with some kind of statement. It might have an I statement. It might have a we statement. It usually will have a little bit of personality to it, which classic marketing doesn't have a lot of personality. It's just like, here, read our press release. So one thing is about Facebook is you want to make sure that every status update has some kind of statement attached to a link that you're going to post. Now, in this case, they had an event. They posted some photos. That's really good community building. Notice it got 3 comments, and it looks like 1 like. I can't see for sure. And then down below, they do some more photos. And let's look at another case. They've got more thumbs up, more comments. And then when somebody actually posts a comment, they'll go back and reply. What I see a lot of nonprofits do is they'll just go into Facebook, post the link, and then maybe they'll get a couple of comments, but they don't actually go back and participate. And this really is what Facebook is about. You want to make sure that you're posting content that's interesting, and you know it's interesting by the kind of feedback and response that you get from your fans. If you're not getting any, then most likely your ROI is pretty minimal. Now, I love International Development Exchange. They're one of my favorite organizations. I used to work there. But notice the difference. They're doing marketing. They're sending out a link. It doesn't have any comments. It doesn't have any likes. And then the one status update talking about an event where they did post a preface statement, it got a couple of likes. Right? So it's really important to understand that most likely people are tuning out their status updates when it's just marketing. So you want to make sure on that second best practice that you find your Facebook voice. And that translates to Twitter. That translates to LinkedIn or MySpace or YouTube. Every community is unique. Every community has its own tone. Like a lot of people often sense Twitter with Facebook. That is a huge mistake because Facebook is one community with its own rules for etiquette and frequency of posting. Twitter is completely another one. So on this third point is being nice and replying and retweeting on Twitter. And I have to say being friendly and being nice is important across all social networking sites. And what I mean by that is that if somebody says something nice on your wall, make sure you reply back and say thanks. If somebody does something nice for your organization, make sure you acknowledge that on social networking sites. And that requires time. And I tell you, it does require a particular personality of someone that can go in, and take the time and actually want to engage people and participate and be friendly. And nowhere except on Twitter does this whole friendly thing play itself out more. And Twitter, the objective here is, for those of you that aren't using it, is to build followers, right? You want to have people that are reading your tweets, and one of the fastest way to get new followers is to retweet others. And I'll show you that in just a minute. And basically what that means is forwarding other people's tweets. It's an ironic thing on Twitter. The more you promote others, the more it'll come back at you and you'll get retweeted yourself. One thing I see a lot of nonprofits do, or less and less these days, but you want to make sure you don't go on Twitter, and just start, thank you, thank you, thank you, oh, this is great, blah, blah, blah. But you want to make sure that you're smart about what you're retweeting and the content that you're posting, and not being so friendly that you're posting thanks for the retweet 20 times a day, because that's pretty boring. Now, I think the National Wildlife Federation, they were an early adopter of social media. They were on MySpace either in late 2005 or early 2006. And what's ironic is some of those early adopters, Oxfam, National Wildlife Federation, Humane Society, those that were on MySpace 5 years ago, they're the ones that have 250,000 fans today. They've been doing this sort of stuff for a long time now. And Danielle, who works at the National Wildlife Federation, she's probably one of the best. I can count on my hand 5 people that I automatically just think of as friendly community builders and understand this whole concept of, good karma on Twitter. You promote somebody else, they end up promoting you back. It comes right back at you. So I highlighted a tweet at the bottom, where she had retweeted someone else, and I actually can't see it, but the person that she retweeted is this person. And then she retweeted the National Wildlife Federation in return to her followers. So it's really important to understand on Twitter that you just don't go on there and do marketing. And this is probably why a lot of the small to medium-sized nonprofits, they hear like, yeah, we got to get on Twitter, so let's try it. And then they get on there and all they do is market, like, hey, we need a donation, or hey, sign up for our email newsletter, or hey, read our blog. That gets very boring very, very quickly. And Twitter takes time to find your voice. It took me a good 6 months inside of that community until I really realized what it was about. And that brings us to the 4th social media secret. Mix it up. Don't only tweet your own content. Send out content that you know your followers will either retweet or find interesting. Over time, and by using a few tools I'm going to show you here in just a minute, you will get a sense of what content your particular followers find interesting. And just like on Facebook, if you're not getting any comments or if you're not getting any thumbs up, that's the #1 indicator that you're not sending out the kind of content that folks want. On Twitter, if you're not getting retweeted or you're not getting mentioned, then most likely you haven't found your voice, and as a result, your ROI, your return of investment from Twitter is going to be pretty minimal as well. So for example, let's look at my nonprofit account. Now, if I went on here and all I ever did was talk about myself and talk about my company and talk about my blog, I wouldn't be getting retweeted a whole lot. I mix up my content. So I'll promote a nonprofit through the Nonprofit of the Month. And then I'll promote the Facebook page and promote a nonprofit. And then I'll retweet another nonprofit. And then that nonprofit will likely retweet me in return. So by promoting others, I end up getting retweeted and promoted more often. So it's really important to understand, you might have another nonprofit that works on the same mission that you do, but you'll still retweet them and promote them. Or let's say you're an animal organization that works to, educate people about spay and neutering their pet. And the New York Times comes out with an article, that morning that says, here are some stats on the status of, unspayed and neutered pets in America. Well, you might want to send that out. Most nonprofits, when they first get on Twitter, they do only marketing, right? And so it takes a while to understand on Twitter, it's not just about that. It really is about promoting others, mentioning, having conversations, retweeting. Now, I train a lot of Catholic sisters. I'm a big fan of Catholic sisters. And one way that I always explain this to them is retweet to others as you would have them retweet unto you. And it really is so true. The more you retweet other people, the more you get retweeted. And if you get retweeted more often, then the more your name gets out there on Twitter. And over time, the more followers you will have. I do have to say a lot of large organizations like the Humane Society or Amnesty International or the National Wildlife Federation, now in many cases their brand can carry them. They can go on Facebook or they can go on Twitter and get 40,000 followers in a year. The reality is most small to medium-sized nonprofits, they're going to have to build their communities on Facebook slowly, 1,000 fans 1 year. Maybe they've got 3,000 by the end of the second year. So you can't expect miracles. But if you find your Facebook voice, if you find your Twitter voice, over time, your communities will grow. All the while, you want to make sure, for every 10 tweets you're sending out, you put in one that's like, hey, by the way, urgent, we really need $20. Or, hey, sign up for our email newsletter. Or, hey, check out our blog. You want to do marketing, of course, but you have to do it strategically. So I would say out of every, 5 tweets on Twitter, have 4 of them be about your programs, your missions, or content related to your work area. And then 1, the blatant, like, hey, we need a donation, or hey, sign up for our email newsletter, or hey, visit our new blog post. Now, retweeting, it really is quite fascinating. Sociologists are having a field day with studying Twitter because it really, for the first time, kind of takes massive human behaviors and impulses and things that we see. It's so subtle. And then people can actually study what we're doing on Twitter scientifically. And so you'll see some of the most retweetable words are please retweet. Notice the please part. That's what I said about being friendly. You would be surprised how much being friendly will carry you in social media. Top 10 reasons, how to, new blog post, free webinar, new media release, new blog post. Check it out. Please retweet us, Twitter, you, this sort of thing. The least retweetable words are kind of the cliche about Twitter, which people who don't use it regularly, we see the commercials where, the dad's tweeting on the back porch with the son, and the son's sitting right next to him, and he's tweeting, yeah, I'm sitting on the porch. And it's just kind of so silly, and people that use Twitter know that it's not really about that. So this whole thing of, hey, I'm watching the game, ha, 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 laugh out loud, oh, I'm so tired, my back hurts, I'm bored, I'm listening to this, time to go to bed, least retweetable words. People that are on Twitter have high voracious appetites for news consumption. They tend to be college educated, they tend to be a little bit older, they tend to be professional. So it's a more advanced group of the internet online commons, and they most often tend to be looking for news. So kind of some of the more boring, tedious stuff, it doesn't work as well. Now, interestingly enough, punctuation even plays a big deal. I use a lot of colons when I send out tweets, and I notice that does help me get retweeted. I can send out the same tweet with a semicolon, and it doesn't. And I think you'll notice the semicolons on the far right, and I think that has a lot to do with the fact that if you send out a semicolon, most often people will think it was a typo, so like, oh, they don't really know what they're doing, they're sending out typos, right? So it's just very fascinating. Twitter takes a while. It takes a good 4 to 6 months. It's not what it appears on the surface at all. You have to be in that community a while before you really get a sense of what it's about and how to use it. Also, what URL shorteners you're using make a big difference. Bitly is '1 by far, so using Bitly helps you get retweeted, and #2 is Owly. Now this is actually an old graph. It's about 9 months old. Owly comes from Hootsuite, and I know Hootsuite's really popular now, so my guess is that's gone up a little bit, but Bitly is still by far the most retweetable URL. leading us to the fifth secret, which is using third-party Twitter apps. Now, third-party Twitter apps just aren't meant for Twitter. They can be used in your website. They can be used in your email communications. They can be used on Facebook. There are currently 2,900 third-party Twitter apps at a website called 140.com. I have read estimates that by the end of the year 2011, there will be over 50,000 third-party Twitter apps. And the vast majority of them are free. That's one thing that's really amazing about the time in which we're living and communicating in the nonprofit sector. Whereas 10 years ago, a Donate Now button to sign up, it was $300 and then $50 a month. Websites were expensive. So many of these tools are now free and available. So here's Bitly. Bitly is, of course, a URL shortener, but it's much more than that. And you have to create an account. Make sure you log in when you use Bitly. And what it'll do is it'll basically take a really long URL, meaning a long website address, and shrink it down to about 15 characters. Now on Twitter, you're only allowed to send out tweets that are 140 characters, so shrinking URLs is really important so it doesn't take up a lot of the space of your tweet. But more importantly, using the Bitly version where you sign in to create an account, it allows you to track how many people are clicking on what you're sending out on Twitter. And I tell you, when I started using Bitly, it was a real wake-up call for me because here I was sending out stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, my followers will find that interesting. And once I created the Bitly account and started actually monitoring to see what people were clicking on, I found out it was completely different than what I thought. So a lot of nonprofits are tweeting blindly, meaning they don't really know who's clicking on what and what the results are. One thing that's great about Bitly is for each link, it'll then track how many people clicked it directly from your Twitter account, how many people retweeted it, how many people shared it on Facebook, how many people commented on it Facebook. And this whole screenshot doesn't show everything, but then it also shows all the people that retweeted it below. It'll show you from what countries, if it was translated into different languages. So Bitly should just become a part of your regular Twitter experience to make you a better Twitterer, right? You might be sending out stuff thinking, hey, this stuff's doing great, and then you might discover that no one's actually clicking on it, or you'll send out something thinking, maybe this will work, and then it'll end up getting retweeted and tweeted like 1,000 times, and you'll be like, wow, I had no idea. So using Bitly helps you find your Twitter voice. Twitpoll is another one. In general, I have found that people really like polls. It's just kind of a funny thing, answer this question. And so this is one that I sent out. All of these tools are free. You just go to twitpoll.com and you actually log in with your Twitter ID, right? You don't have to create a new account or anything like that. So how many times a day on average does your nonprofit get retweeted? I was really shocked by the results. I can't see it. It's too small on my end in this particular view, but it was something like 70% were retweeted 3 times or less a week. And then another 11% didn't even know what that meant. Like they had no idea where to find out. So we're looking at 80 to 85% of nonprofits not getting retweeted at all. And what that means is that they're not posting the kind of content that their followers are wanting. So when they're only growing by a couple of new followers a day or a week, it might have to do with the fact that they're tweeting blindly, that they haven't really found their Twitter voice. Another fun Twitter tool, third-party app, is something called Bubble Tweet. This is the Chronicle of Philanthropy. They were announcing a contest, and it'll basically allow you to film using your camera on your computer, a little 30-second, 45-second clip, and then you can put it on the home page of your Twitter account. You might want to use this on a special campaign day, or maybe you're an organization that works with refugees and you want to do something from your executive director on World Refugee Day. But of course, use it sparingly, right? We all know how annoying it is now to go to a website and it's playing music or videos start talking at you. So it's the same thing here. You want to use this sort of thing sparingly, where people go to your Twitter account and a video pops up in a little bubble. But every once in a while it's a new twist and it's a fun way to use Twitter. And we're only covering 4 of the current 2,900 third-party Twitter apps. Another one's TwoGov for any of you organizations out there that do advocacy work. This one's really interesting. You can sign up and then you send out a tweet and you use a hashtag, and when people use that hashtag or mention ToGov in their tweet, it automatically compiles everyone. And then if they've entered their location on their Twitter account, when you log in and you enter your city and state, once a month, this organization or this group will then send the senators and all the congresspeople and the president, everyone on Capitol Hill, how many people sent out tweets supporting such legislation or against such legislation. So if you're an advocacy organization, that's very much kind of a little bit of advocacy 3.0 right there, the basis of it being born, so you definitely want to check that one out. Now, a sixth tip, and I'm going to go through these last four pretty quickly to make sure we have time for questions, and this might seem a little cheesy, but it's so true, is use inspirational quotes and powerful stats everywhere on social media. It is guaranteed. I guarantee you, you will get retweeted, you will get thumbs up, you will get comments, right? I mean, a lot of us maybe, we don't want to promote or don't want to do quotes because it's like, oh, that seems so cheesy. I've heard that Margaret Mead quote 1,000 times. But people eat it up on the online comments. They love it. Anytime I post this one by Alice Walker, Activism is my rent for living on this planet, that'll get retweeted a minimum of 50 times. So that means 50 people on Twitter are sending out my Twitter ID to anywhere from 1,000 to 100,000 people. Quotes work. Stats also work. I log into Twitter a lot. I only follow nonprofits, and currently it's about 25,500 of them that I've been able to find on Twitter. And I have to log in every day and try to find interesting stats that nonprofits are posting, and the vast majority of them are not at all. They're mostly doing the marketing thing, right? So I have actually a difficult time finding tweets from nonprofits that are using stats that I want to retweet, but nothing works more often in terms of getting retweeted or comments or thumbs up than stats related to your organization's work. So for example, 1 in 4 girls is sexually abused before the age of 18 in the United States. That's shocking to people. So that wakes them up. And then it sends a link to this organization's website who's working against childhood sexual abuse to the stat and the information where people can learn more about that. Another one, the third one, the truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off, Gloria Steinem. Don't be afraid to rock the boat a little bit, right? I mean, I remember I posted that one a couple of weeks ago, and I had actually never said anything on Twitter, like piss me off or get mad or anything like that. I tend to be a little cautious, and I was shocked. 100 people retweeted that. So don't be afraid to rock the boat a little bit. And then another one that always gets retweeted quite a bit, let's say you're an animal organization or an environmental ocean organization, you got a plethora of stats that you can find. 73 million sharks are killed annually for shark fin soup. And then it links to a video that shows shark finning with a great big donate button on it that says, donate to help stop this. Definitely think about your organization, your mission, your program, and just regularly, consistently, on a weekly basis, come up with like a stat or a famous quote that you can alternate between Facebook and Twitter and MySpace or even Foursquare. If any of you are using Foursquare, stats work really well in Foursquare shouts. So social media tip number 7, and this is one I have to say was a big eye-opener for me. I was a reluctant blogger. I only started blogging 10 months ago. I was like, oh my gosh, there's like something insane, like 133 million blogs out there today. I was like, the world does not need another blogger. There is enough blogs. I was absolutely so wrong. Since launching my blog 10 months ago, my brand, my online recognition, my webinar signups, just everything has exploded. So it took 4 years, for example, to build my email newsletter list to get 3,000. It took the last 10 months to get 5,000 email newsletter subscribers, and they're coming from my blog. And the 2 most important reasons that you want to think about blogging today and how it's so different from, say, blogging in 2006 and 2007, when maybe your executive director was going to launch a blog, like to put a human face to your organization. Today it's about, well, if you're going to go out on Facebook, if you're going to go out on Twitter and regularly have, fresh content on Twitter, you can be posting 3 to 4 to 5 tweets a day. Well, what are you going to be posting? Right? Are you always going to be sending out the New York Times? Are you always going to be sending out that About Us page from your website? Well, that's going to get boring pretty quickly. What blogging allows you to do, and there's plenty of things that you can blog about. I have a blog where I actually have 15 different ideas for nonprofits to blog about, 15 different things. This will allow you to have a consistent stream of fresh content that you can log and send out on Twitter and Facebook every day. Twitter and Facebook and all of these new social media tools are content driven. So if you're an organization that maybe only has a 30-page website, then you got to start getting creative about what you're going to send out on Twitter. The great thing about blogging is you can send something out, but let's say, for example, going back to that analogy or that idea of the New York Times, writing a story about spay and neutering your pet. Well, let's say you were, an animal shelter and you had your own blog. Instead of sending out the New York Times article, how about linking, logging into your blog that morning and linking to the New York Times article, and then putting a 1-paragraph statement about what you think about the article. But instead of sending out the New York Times link, you send out a link to your blog. Now, why that's beneficial is because it's still the New York Times article, but it doesn't have the New York Times branding. Your branding gets out there. Your, hey, connect with us on Twitter. Hey, connect with us on Facebook. Hey, sign up for our email newsletter is featured there, not the New York Times. Another reason why blogging is really important, which I can't get into much detail right now, is that search engine optimization has changed dramatically. Blogging can help increase your organization showing up in Google results significantly. I mean, it's a miracle. I just launched a new blog a week ago, and already I went and searched for a keyword that I was using, and I now pop up #1 in Google. It took a grand total of a week, and I did that by blogging. So if you've thought about blogging of, hey, we're just going to get in here and kind of write about us and write about what we're doing, think about blogging in a new way and maybe read some of my blogging best practices after the webinar to get a sense of what you can really do with them these days. What I find interesting is the Nature Conservancy. They had a blog that looked a certain way for a very long time, and then just within the last month, they've redone everything. Now, I want you to notice on their blog, so instead of sending out articles about the Gulf oil spill, from news outlets, they're making their own news, and they're sending out that Gulf oil spill, building the Ark of Recovery post everywhere on Twitter and on Facebook. And then it has the share us. And then you'll notice in the upper right, hey, become our fan on Facebook, connect with us on Twitter, subscribe to our email newsletter list. So they have, I think, understood, just like I did, where the lightning bolt went off about 6 months ago, which blogging tends to be the missing piece in a social media strategy. It really, really does. And they have designed their blog to exactly, their new blog to exactly fill that void. The 8th tip is utilizing LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a sleeper in return on investment. And I think the reason why a lot of nonprofits don't use it is because maybe they've tried, they didn't have a whole lot of success, and they gave up on it. But the reality is, when it comes to LinkedIn groups, and there's all kinds of things you can do on LinkedIn, but I'm just going to talk about groups. Most nonprofits did groups wrong. They created a group named the same name as their organization. For example, creating a group called Greenpeace doesn't really work, because what that does is people are like, well, I don't really want to join a group to just talk about Greenpeace, but joining a group that says, stop global warming or save the environment, that's a group that could grow very, very quickly on LinkedIn. And I learned this because I launched a group called Diosa Communications, right? I did it about 2 years ago maybe, and a grand total of 3 people joined it, right? Because nobody wanted to join a group that was my company name to get on there and talk about my company. How boring is that? So instead, I created a group called Social Media for Nonprofit Organizations. It's much more broad. It's about social media. It's for nonprofits. And this group now has about 7,400 members. When you can create a group, and it took about 1.5 years to get there, to get these 7,400, and what I have noticed in social media in general is 5,000 is the magic number. When you hit 5,000 friends or 5,000 fans or 5,000 followers or 5,000 members, that's when it starts to grow quicker and quicker every day. So I hardly have to promote this anymore at all. I had to promote it to jumpstart it, but now I log in on any given morning and there's 75 to 100 new people that want to join. So if you can create a group name that people are interested in joining that's more general, like, you know, spay or neuter your pet, or save the environment, or stop global warming, or feed the hungry children, whatever the case is, you'll have a much more broad appeal. And if you can get that group to take off and actually spend some time building it, promoting it, there are all kinds of perks that come with being able to manage a group. One of them is the ability to send announcements. So this group has 7,400 people. I then have the ability to email those 7,400 people. You also can create templates for when people join or when people leave. LinkedIn, I will tell you, when I look at my referral traffic of where most of my traffic's coming from, Twitter is always number one because I just got lucky and I have an insane amount of followers on Twitter. LinkedIn is always number two. It blows away Facebook. It blows away MySpace. It blows away YouTube. LinkedIn is a sleeper in ROI. But what most nonprofits have done is this sort of thing, creating groups of the organization's name. It doesn't work. I can't see how small that group is. My guess is it's somewhere around 1,200 or 1,000. I highlighted, I can't see it. But it probably, all the other Sierra clubs are smaller because people don't want to join groups where they're limited to just talking about the Sierra Club. But if the Sierra Club or another organization launched a group, something like, you know, Protect Wildernesses or Save National Parks, and then you could actually get that to go viral, you would have a group that would have a lot of power within a year to 2 years. And I will tell you, LinkedIn's growing. I watch on a weekly basis. You know, where's Twitter at this week? Where's MySpace at this week? Where's LinkedIn at this week? And LinkedIn consistently over the last 2 years, you know, is jumping up one spot towards now the 17th most visited website in the United States. Twitter's number 9, MySpace is number 13. So for example, if the Sierra Club would have created a group called Green or Green Living, I'm not sure how many members are there, but my guess is it's somewhere around 80,000 if I can remember. That is a very, very powerful group. Now, not only that, you can go into groups like Green. Let's say you're an environmental organization. You have a blog. Well, you can go join groups like Green or Save the Environment. And by the way, there is no Save the Environment group on LinkedIn. There is no Spay and Neuter Your Pet group on LinkedIn. There's no Stop Global Warming. So it's carte blanche there of whoever wants to do it first. But if you do, if you are an environmental organization, for example, you can join a group like Green and then go post links to your blog and participate in that community to promote your blog and your organization. Social media tip number 9 is you got to know HTML. You have to know basic HTML. From what I can tell, about 10% of nonprofits know HTML enough to be able to add donate now buttons and email newsletter boxes to their Facebook page or their blog. It will make or break your social media ROI. So what I mean by that is if you look at my Facebook page and you see all those icons over on the left, Twitter, LinkedIn, MySpace, WordPress, YouTube, Flickr, that's the static FBML app on Facebook, and that's HTML. It looks more difficult than it actually is. There are online tutorials. I teach it in my webinars. You can take a class, but you have to learn HTML to take your social media campaigns to the next level. And I have to say we're there. Like, it is time to take social media campaigns to the next level, meaning, you know, we got to think about maybe hiring somebody 5 hours a week, or we got to hire somebody to design our avatar. We got to make sure, you know, our social media person knows HTML and is properly trained. You don't want to wing it at this point. And that brings up an important point about blogging. You want to make sure that you have a banner and that it's designed. First impressions are everything in blogging. Whether or not they will come back and take your blog seriously has a lot to do with what they think about it in the first 3 seconds. So that might mean hiring a designer to do a banner for you on your blog. Now you'll notice I have highlighted there subscribe. Oh, I keep forgetting I have this fancy thing here. Subscribe to Nonprofit Tech 2.0. Well, that's HTML. right? So you have to learn how to use it. Now the last one I'm going to go through pretty quickly because I don't want to overwhelm you with the mobile web. It's not the next big thing. It's already here. And I have to say, from watching nonprofits be the best at social media, I really do think nonprofits are the best at social media. I think they're better than the big corporate brands. I think they're better than colleges and universities because they were the first. They were the pioneers. They were the early adopters. They were there in 2005 on MySpace. They've been learning and confronting their fears about social media for 5 years now. They've been very, very slow to adopt the mobile web. And I think it's because they think it's expensive. Text to give and iPhone apps and all of that stuff, I'll be honest, I don't think that's the best way to enter the mobile web. And those tools are expensive, but that's a whole nother webinar. But I would say, think about launching a mobile website. All right, now my mobile website costs $8 a month. There's a blog post on my blog about how I did that. So these tools are not expensive. They don't need to be fancy. Someone emailed me the other day and said, hey, we got a quote for a mobile website for $12,000. What do you think? I said, absolutely, that's crazy. Don't even talk to those people again. They're trying to pull wool over your eyes. Designing a website, you can use a WordPress blog, super simple. Again, when the Nature Conservancy launched their new blog, at the same time they launched their mobile website. Now it doesn't look great on a desktop site, but what you need to imagine is what that's going to look like about 2 inches wide. And the reason I think they did it is because they understand that by 2015, the internet as we know it is going to be completely different. So those larger organizations who actually have the staff and the ability to keep up and read the data, and are reading Mashable and TechCrunch and all this stuff and know what's going on and know what's coming next and are vested in being early adopters because they know what the benefits of early adoption are. Those who do it first, those always get the most buzz, right? So by 2015, the mobile web, mobile website, apps, iPads, all this kind of stuff. But one of the reasons why a mobile website is so good is that it's accessible to anyone on any mobile phone, right? African Americans, Latinos, they're the quickest growing users, not of iPhones or Blackberries, of all of this stuff, but of regular old cell phones that have mobile browsers. So when you get into issues of apps and all of these fancy tools, you might be getting into an issue where not everyone can access it because perhaps of background, societal background, or income level, that sort of thing. Texting, you can use Textmarks to launch a campaign for free. I just wrote about that 2 days ago. It's on my blog. Social networking on the go, right? This is the Humane Society. Last year, they sent tweets live from the seal hunt. Right? Now, that was a game changer. They had been reporting about the seal hunt for years, but after the fact, after coming back and taking the awful pictures and posting them in an email newsletter. This time, they did it live while it was happening, video and photos. It was a game changer. It made me give to save the seals. And an early adopter, Foursquare. You're going to check that one out, and there's a good chance your organization might already have a profile in Foursquare. Again, just in the interest of time, I see we only have 9 minutes back. I don't want to get into details. But on that 10th point, just make sure that you're thinking, even if you're not ready for it, you don't need to make a move right away. But Facebook Mobile is now growing faster than Facebook Desktop. YouTube just launched their new mobile site yesterday, and the tools are affordable. The web is fundamentally changing once again right now from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0. So how about some questions? Someone is asking, I see, best sites to use to launch a blog. I love WordPress. Love, love, love WordPress. Cannot recommend it more than anything. I also use it as the content management system for my mobile website. Right? So I pay $8 a month to design the site and add images and all that, but I actually go into my blog to update it. $8 a month for the mobile website. Texting using Textmarks is free. So for a grand total of about $100 a year, you can launch a mobile website and a text messaging campaign. I come from a background of pulling off miracles on about 20 cents, right? I've worked with small nonprofits. So I'm just not one that looks at the tools that are $1,000 a month or that sort of thing. I really put a focus on how can I pull this off with the least amount of cash possible. Let's see, boy, lots of questions. Here's a good one. How many times per day, a week, should we update Facebook? I tell you what I've learned about Facebook, and it took me a while. It actually took me longer to find my Facebook voice than my Twitter voice, and sometimes I still think I don't have it. That is a hard community. What I have found on Facebook is less is more. You can get away with 2 status updates a day, but if I were you, I would do 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. What I have found works best for me is actually 3 to 4 a week. So on Monday afternoon, I might do 1, and then on Wednesday morning, I might do another one, and then maybe Thursday afternoon. And then on Saturday morning, when people, are a little bit more relaxed and they're not rushed and they're waking up and they're having a cup of coffee, a Saturday morning is actually a really good time to send out a status update on Facebook. I think if you send out too many, particularly if they're not good, your status updates have to be good on Facebook. Whereas on Twitter, you can send out 6 or 7 a day as long as you spread them out throughout the day, and maybe 3 of them are really boring. People will forgive you of that, or they won't see it. But on Facebook, you got to make sure you got top-notch status updates. So if you're going to be posting, more than 1 or 2 a day, make sure that it's good content. And again, I think the big brands, the nationally and internationally well-known nonprofits, have a completely different experience in social media than the smaller to medium-sized. Humane Society, everybody loves the Humane Society, or at least most people do. They want to hear about happy stories of kittens and puppies. So I can see the Humane Society in my newsfeed 4 times a day and not really get too annoyed, even though sometimes it is too much clutter. But I won't unfriend them, or I won't unfan them, or I won't hide them. But if it's a smaller nonprofit and it's just kind of marketing stuff and it's us, us, read us, we're so great, blah, 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 I will definitely, unlike pretty quickly. So when it comes to Facebook, I go on the side of caution, 3 to 5 a week, spread out. Let's see. Community, that's a tough one. Someone is saying our nonprofit name doesn't define itself. We're a conflict resolution organization, but our name is Community Conferencing Center. That's a whole bigger question because absolutely you're right. Your name does not represent what you do. So maybe you want to start something, with terms, maybe you want to start a campaign with conflict resolution in it, and then, as a byproduct, a project of, the Community Conferencing Center. And then another question was, well, we have, a news section on our website, and do we still need to launch a blog? Well, the first question that comes up is, I hope that on your news pages, you can still use news as long as 2 things are there. 1, connect with us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. You've got icons to all your social networking profiles. Because I tell you, I have them on my website. Nobody clicks there. People, when they go to my blog and they see the I statement, and this is Heather, and this is what she's thinking, they either agree with me or they don't, but nonetheless, they want to fan me on Facebook to see what I'm going to say next. And that's that kind of casual person voice that blogging allows you. I don't know if on your website you particularly are comfortable with using I, we statements. Either way, just make sure if you're going to use news that you've got the connect with us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, check out our YouTube channel, and most importantly, subscribe to our email newsletter list. Even though email subscription rates are going down about 1% a year, the vast majority of online donors still come from a link that's clicked inside of an email newsletter. So it's really important. Another thing that's important is on that blogging component on the news section is can people comment on it, right? So if they can't comment on it, then that's not a blog. It doesn't work the same way you would need a blog.
Well, that is about as much time as we have. Maybe there's just one more question. Sorry, I had my line got muted. I meant to ask you some questions, but you had answered a lot that had lined up. But we do have many, many more questions that aren't being, that we won't have time to answer today. But Heather, thank you so much for this great presentation.
Sure.
And again, folks, we have a forum topic started in our community forums. And we'll be posting some of your questions here that we've collected there and have them answered. So check back. I'll send you the link shortly. So Here's the bit.ly URL, which we talked about bit.ly earlier. This will bring you straight to that forum topic that you can post your question to. If you're new to TechSoup, we've got much more than just webinars. We've got donated software from organizations, companies like Microsoft, Adobe, and Symantec. We've got articles and a blog ourselves, as well as our community forums, and we post upcoming events. So I'd like to tell you about a couple of upcoming webinars. We are planning one on WordPress and talking about some different CMS tools. But here are two that are planned for the week after next: tips and tools for technology planning, as well as business planning for nonprofits and libraries. So hopefully you guys can join us for those, one of those webinars. And we would like to thank ReadyTalk for their sponsorship of this webinar series. This webinar is made possible by ReadyTalk, which has donated the use of their system to help TechSoup expand awareness of technology throughout the nonprofit sector. ReadyTalk helps nonprofits and libraries in the US and Canada reach geographically dispersed areas and increase collaboration through their audio conferencing and web conferencing services. So again, I'd like to thank everyone, and especially Heather. This was really amazing. You've done such a great job of showing us what the big things are to think about, and I think there's a lot of food for thought here, and hopefully we'll get you on in the future to do another webinar. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Please stand.